Hey everyone, and welcome to Inside Gaming Daily for Friday!
Yes!
That's so musical.
Thank you.
Got a nice 3-day weekend coming up, a little song to guide you into the weekend. However, I got some bad news for you guys. You might remember that Telltale Games collapsed last year in spectacular fashion, leaving a once great studio reduced to rubble.
Well, now its games are disappearing from digital stores like Steam and GOG, so a lot of people are gonna miss out on the chance to play Telltale's back catalog.
Yeah, which is a shame, because there are definitely some gems in there.
Ever since Telltale Games went under last year, we've seen a few games get removed from storefront, but for the most part, its catalog has still been available for sale, thankfully.
Yeah, but it looks like that's changing real soon, right, Brian?
Yeah, recently GOG announced that all of the remaining Telltale games will be delisted from its catalog starting on Monday of next week. So happy Memorial Day, you guys.
Oh man, this is what our brave soldiers fought and died for. To come home to a world without Telltale Games on digital storefronts.
Ridiculous.
So those include, and this is basically all of them, The Wolf Among Us, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Hector, Badge of Carnage, the Batman series, Sam & Max series, the Puzzle Agent series, Tales from the Borderlands, and Strong Bad's Cool Game for Attractive People. Man, Telltale's been around.
Game of Thrones is still... It still get that game.
That's not on GOG at all.
Well, they didn't take it down.
You didn't lose it if you never had it in the first place, I guess.
I'm sorry that I call it GOG, but I do. So GOG added that for everyone who purchased any of said titles prior to delisting, the games will remain in their GOG library.
But it's not just GOG going through this. You got me doing it now, dang.
It's I say NES, I don't say NES, right?
I like saying GOG.
No, GOG.
Yeah, anyway, yeah. Over on Steam, it looks like Tales from the Borderlands, the episodic adventure that's set in the Borderlands universe, is no longer for sale on Steam, which is a shame because that was genuinely a good series.
Very good game. The
Yeah.
game's page is still up, but there's no more price tag and the add to cart button has been removed.
Ooh, they like taunting you, which is a real bummer because that was a good game, very funny. There's bound to be some more interest in it this year, especially with Borderlands 3 coming up.
I mean, a lot of those characters show up in Borderlands 3, so it'd be cool for people to get to play Tales to get up to speed.
Yeah, isn't
They
that
have
where,
the previous
that's where
Borderlands
Reese
games.
comes from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah!
Brian, didn't 2K actually chime in on this one?
Oh yeah, apparently they think the same thing we do because it is trying very hard to get it back up for sale ASAP. Eurogamer talked to a 2K spokesperson who said, "We are working to get Tales from the Borderlands back up on digital storefronts as soon as possible. All prior digital purchases of the game will of course still be honored and supported."
We got the Imperial OU in
Thank you, Eurogamer.
Honored.
I appreciate that.
Bet. We're in America. We don't have time for that. Anyway, this is not the first time that Telltale games have been pulled from digital stores. Last year, 3 Telltale games disappeared from Steam soon after Telltale closed down. Those included Monkey Island, Jurassic Park, and the Back to the Future series.
But I think this is the biggest removal of games we've seen since Telltale's closure. Still though, this doesn't mean that they're all gone. We did check around and there are still Telltale games up for sale on various digital storefronts.
Yeah, so if we're gonna fire sale, where should we go to hoard all the Telltale we can?
Well, you can always go to Epic Games Store because
Yeah!
The Walking Dead
Everyone loves
is
that.
still up on there. And other people have checked around. They haven't noticed any big changes in the Xbox or PlayStation stores. Maybe some individuals, but it looks like overall they're still up. But, you know, by next week, who knows what could happen?
I'm gonna guess it has to do with the recurring nature of how these digital storefronts execute contracts with publishers. And Steam's is probably up, and there's no one to sign a new deal with, so that's that. So we'll see what happens with.
Where does the money go?
That's a good question. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll try and dissect this to make it make a little more sense. So, obviously, this all comes in the wake of Telltale's collapse last year. About 250 people lost their jobs. People didn't get severance pay. It was a horrible situation all around.
Yeah, at the time the studio was working on the final season of the Walking Dead games, which is the franchise that basically made Telltale famous, but after its closure, Skybound Entertainment, which is headed by the comics creator Robert Kirkman, stepped up to finish The Walking Dead.
Well, while The Walking Dead got the most headlines, Telltale did make some other really good games, like Tales from the Borderlands and The Wolf Among Us.
Which I don't have, and I'm getting worried about. I heard The Wolf Among Us is very good.
I've heard that too.
Well, this whole thing is just kind of a reminder of the big drawback of digital games. They can be here today and then completely gone tomorrow. There's also the nightmare scenario of a big storefront shutting down, possibly putting your whole library at risk. This is
Yeah.
why I wish I had more room for physical copies.
Right, so yeah, don't throw away those physical games just yet. Or, here's an alternative. Just back up all your stuff, throw it on a hard drive, and stuff it in a closet somewhere.
Smart. You're a smart man.
Cold storage is what they call it. Brian, we're not completely out of luck, right? If we've already bought them, or if we buy them today, we're still good, yeah?
Yes, you can still play them. They're not being removed from people's libraries. And then some sites are already compiling lists of where you can buy some of the remaining games while you still can. And then there are also, physical copies, like you guys said, that are still floating around. I checked on Amazon. They've got copies of Wolf Among Us for PlayStation and Xbox one, but they are going fast. You can already tell there are a few people at least who are starting to snap them up.
Well, as for why this happened now, yeah, nobody seems to have any idea. Kotaku talked to some former employees at Telltale who said they didn't know why these games are being removed now, but they're not at all happy about it.
I wouldn't be happy if my work just evaporated from the world.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, weird, right?
You know what it reminds me of?
So one said, quote, seeing games they crunched over and poured their hearts into suddenly disappear from the universe is a huge gut punch. Yeah.
As for why it's happening now, well, maybe it's because stores like Steam and GOG need someone to give all this money to, because these games are still selling and still making money, and with Telltale gone, there just isn't anyone to pay right now.
Yeah, so it's interesting because the situation is a little different from a physical store. Like, we want to think about Steam as a physical store that has an inventory and they take a key off the shelf and give it to us.
And they've bought the stock that they then have to resell.
Exactly.
Not how this works.
So brick and mortar stores buy inventory from a company. They'll put an order in for 10,000 copies of Tales of the Borderlands or whatever, and then they distribute that to all of their locations. Yeah, at that point, the seller takes in the money and the store takes in the inventory. The transaction's complete.
So if the distributor goes out of business, the store can still keep the inventory because they've already paid the distributor. From then on, the transaction is just between you and the store.
But Steam is a little different.
Just a little.
I've never seen Steam run out of inventory. I've seen other resellers run out of inventory, but not Steam. So it makes sense to us that they sell game keys directly. Or maybe there's a monthly/quarterly reporting process where they pay out revenue share based on how many keys they've distributed. Regardless, Steam doesn't have a buffer where they can sell through inventory they've already acquired or paid for.
But basically, if there's nobody to pass revenues to, then Steam can't very well keep selling a game they don't own the rights to and keep the money. That would be theft.
Yeah, something like that. I tried to think around this. Maybe they could just sell it and hold it in escrow, like an account nobody can touch until the rights holder is legally designated, and then all that money flops to them. But that's a lot of effort and a lot of contracting and muddy accounting to go through.
It's also just who would do that work.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it doesn't benefit anybody.
We could be like, what if they gave all that money to the devs who got let go? Who's doing that?
Well, you have to sign paperwork for that, and then let's go round up all the devs that have scattered to the wind because they got kicked out on their ass. Jeez. It would be great, but that's not how capitalism works.
A lot of money accounting to go through just to allow people to play an adventure game that most of them have already moved on from.
Brian, like, we can theorize about what's happening now. What do we think's going on?
Yeah, there also might be a bankruptcy process that's going on with Telltale, so it could be possible that a court is deciding who gets paid for which games, and considering how long it takes the wheels of justice to turn, that could take a long time.
The situation is probably only going to get more common as we keep barreling down the path of digital rights management and digitally distributed media. Speaking of which, we got some personal experience with that. We at Rooster Teeth were directly involved with a pretty big instance of that very thing just a few months ago.
Just like a routine herpes outbreak, it's time to talk about machinima again.
It's back. Sorry.
The company wiped its entire YouTube channel just a few months ago thanks to complications regarding copyright, and as a result, you guys lost years and years of online media.
Yeah, I mean, there was a fringe benefit. We get to do this now.
That is true.
That's cool.
Came full circle.
Luckily, Rooster Teeth put in a ton of hard work to clear most of the series that people remembered the most. Still, there are, just volumes and tomes of 13-year-olds shrieking at Call of Duty that is just now dust in the wind.
Shut up! Kind of like the current situation, it's possible that someone has backups of those videos saved in offline storage somewhere, possibly the original creators.
It's fun to think about. Like, there's just an e-machine in a pawn shop in Ohio somewhere that has the sickest 360 no-scope montage just sitting on that hard drive. Still, the lesson here is clear. Media will only be available to us as long as it's in the monetary interest of the rights holders for it to be so. The second it costs more money than it's worth to make those kill streaks available to watch, they're gonna disappear forever.
God bless capitalism.
Memorial Day, thank you guys. So yeah, situations like these are always uncomfortable because they remind us of how fleeting and transparent the illusion of ownership is in the year of our Lord 2019. Or just how fleeting ownership always was in general, right, Brian?
Yeah, you might have had a huge DVD collection that you owned, but it was only valuable as long as you had a working DVD player and a format-compatible TV to plug it into.
So yeah, these days we've swapped reliance on a hardware format to reliance on corporate copyright agreements that give us access to entertainment, and those can dissolve pretty much as quickly as your treasured DVD player can break.
So what's the ultimate solution here? How do we huddle together in the dark and drive away the fear that everything we love will someday leave us?
That's kind of dark.
Yeah,
I'm just
sorry
talking about
that.
video games.
I'm
Well,
sad.
That's dark.
Sadly, the truth is, much like Yoda said, there is no way to 100% protect yourself from this kind of occurrence, whether it's a company suddenly imploding like Telltale or a meteor crashing through your roof and destroying your prized collection of Pokemon cards.
Oh, that made me really sad.
Put them in cases
Take
and
me
everything.
too.
Oh no. Well, the one thing that you can do is get involved with preservation communities.
Yes, the internet is very good about that. Tell us a little more about it, Brian.
Yeah, there's the Video Game History Foundation at gamehistory.org. They've been tackling this problem for a long time. They frequently post scan documentation and chronicle a lot of nearly lost demos, betas, and other works.
So yeah, it's great reading if you're in the mood for some useless video game trivia, and it'll make you an absolute delight at parties.
I promise the panties start dropping once you mention the lost version of SimCity for the NES.
I knew it.
Hey, you already have kids. We know you.
Is that how you got your wife?
I wish. She's not that cool.
Just show her today's Inside Gaming Daily episode. She'll
See
see how
what she
cool we
thinks.
are. Yeah. Well, on that note, there, if you're worried about Telltale in the here and now, we recommend you download offline backups of all those games, whether that's Steam or GOG. Speaking of GOG, a little tip for you guys: it is DRM free, and we just tested this. I bought it right before the show and gave it to our good buddy Aaron over in Austin. He downloaded it and installed it, and it works just fine. So yes, there are things you can do. Not that I'm advising you to break any copyright law or anything like that,
do that.
but there are things you can do.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside Gaming Daily for Monday.
You gotta clap a little bit. I know it's Monday, the beginning of the week. Here's an interesting question. Did Steam just get robbed? The billion-dollar company, they get robbed?
Just like now?
I don't know, maybe they
Great
did.
train ride. Anyway, oh no! Did Steam leave its doors unlocked, or was it flashing too much cash while partying with its friends downtown?
Lawrence does that all the time.
Oh yeah, I like bringing out that watch.
Woo, right, making it rain. Oh, here we hold on.
Got a guest pass for a movie, an AMC movie.
Make it rain. Nothing quite that dramatic, really, like Lawrence is doing, but a crowdfunding